We are already almost halfway through June, and we know that we're going to get a Nintendo Direct sometime later this month. So I figured I'd try and be a prophet and take a minute to make some predictions for what we might get in this Direct. Based on the announcement tweet we got a while back, we know that this Direct will focus exclusively on games coming to the Nintendo Switch this year, which means we will not be seeing any news regarding Nintendo's next console. I might make a prediction video for what I'd like to see for the next console another time, but for now let's stick with the OG Switch. Going into the final stretch of the Switch's lifespan, there are really only two games that we know are going to release this year, being the Luigi's Mansion 2 remake and Nintendo World Championship NES Edition. These games already have a release date in the near future, so I imagine they will get a short showcase in this Direct, but won't be treated as much of a big deal. Pokemon could easily be this year's big holiday game if this Direct doesn't announce anything big, but it's also possible Pokemon could be saved for next year or maybe even be exclusive to the Switch successor. Plus, it's not uncommon for Pokemon games to skip Nintendo Directs and instead be showed off in their own showcases. So regardless of what time and what system it releases on, I'm going to guess it won't be shown at this Direct. We also know that Metroid Prime 4 is still in development, but at this point in the Switch's lifespan, I'd expect the game would be reworked into a title for the next console. When it comes to new announcements for this Direct, the main thing I'm expecting is some more remakes and remasters. A lot of recent Switch titles have been remakes and remasters, which makes sense since Nintendo would want to save their big new titles for the next console. Since we were just talking about Metroid, I think getting a remaster of Metroid Prime 2 is pretty likely. We got the remaster of the original Metroid Prime not too long ago, so it's possible it's too soon for the sequel to get remastered, but I think there's a pretty good chance we will see it in the Direct. When Metroid Prime Remaster was announced, it was shadow dropped the same day digitally, with the physical release happening a bit later. Depending on how long it's been in development, they could possibly do the same with Metroid Prime 2, or they could just announce it here and have it released sometime later this year. They could also announce a Prime 3 remaster as well, although I don't know if they'd release both so close to each other. Plus, it would be funny if the Prime 3 remaster was saved for the next console, since the original Prime 1 and 2 were on the GameCube, while Prime 3 was on the Wii. So it'd be interesting if the Prime 1 and 2 remakes were on the Switch, and Prime 3 was saved for the Switch successor. Early last year, we got Fire Emblem Engage as the latest title in the Fire Emblem franchise. With how much Fire Emblem has grown in popularity over the Switch's lifespan, I imagine they would want to squeeze one more game out for the Switch. And while there is almost certainly a brand new Fire Emblem game being developed or at the very least planned out for the next system, I think a remake would be an easier way to keep the franchise in the public eye until the next console releases. I'm not very familiar with the franchise, but I know fans have been talking about a remake of Fire Emblem Genealogy of the Holy War for a while now, and this would be a great time to announce it. The game also never released outside of Japan, so this would be an opportunity for Western players to play it legally for the first time. Although it's also possible they could remake a different Fire Emblem game. Fates is the game that saved the franchise and it's currently stuck on the 3DS, so it could end up getting the remake treatment instead. The Switch's early life was filled with several ports of the Wii U's original titles. Almost every game from its library has been either ported to or has received a sequel on the Switch. However, there's one pair of remakes on the Wii U that have been weirdly absent from the Switch's library. So I think it's about time we get ports of The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess HD. The Switch has received a new Zelda title almost every year of its life, and these two titles have been just sitting in Nintendo's backlog for a while now. I think it'd be weird if these two games were saved for the next console, so now's the time to make it happen. They could spread out the releases, maybe shadow dropping one of them if a Prime 2 shadow drop doesn't happen, while saving the other for the holiday season. Or maybe Nintendo could sell both as a full-price 2-pack rather than selling each as individual full-price games, although knowing Nintendo, that's wishful thinking. Another game from the GameCube I think could get a remaster or maybe even a remake later this year is F-Zero GX. We recently saw a new F-Zero game for the first time in a long time with F-Zero 99, even if it is just a free battle royale for the Nintendo Switch Online. However, with all the more popular franchises they could have given the 99 treatment, I find it very interesting that they decided to go with F-Zero of all games. While it may just be wishful thinking, it's possible that this was the start of Nintendo testing the waters for bringing back F-Zero, and if that is what Nintendo's doing, a remake of the last main game would be another great way to gauge interest in the franchise. Fans have been clamoring for a new game for decades now, and with how massive the Switch's current user base is, now is the perfect time to test if general audiences would give F-Zero a shot. The last prediction for an older game I want to talk about is Donkey Kong. Donkey Kong has seen a massive bump in Nintendo's branding recently, having a large role in the Mario movie, and he has his own section in the Nintendo theme park currently in the works. Yet outside of playable appearances in Mario spin-offs, DK doesn't have a very large presence on the Switch. We had the Tropical Freeze port in the middle of the Switch's life, and we recently had the Mario vs. Donkey Kong remake, but that's about it. If they want to give DK a last-minute boost to his Switch portfolio, they could bring over Donkey Kong Country Returns. Not only is this game a fantastic platformer, but the designs of Donkey Kong's world in both the Mario movie and the Nintendo theme park seem to mostly be based off this game. And if they wanted to put in some extra work to spruce up the game, they can add Dixie Kong, Cranky Kong, and Funky Kong as extra playable characters from Tropical Freeze. As for some more general port predictions, it seems that a decent amount of remasters, both the ones I predicted earlier in the video and the ones that have actually already been announced, are from the GameCube era. Unfortunately, I don't think we're getting GameCube games on NSO anytime soon, but we could see some other GameCube remasters announced instead. Speaking of NSO, while I doubt we will see another new system added to the service in this direct, I imagine we will get a short segment about a 64 game coming to NSO, most likely either Smash 64 finally making it to the service, or one or more of the rare games that haven't made it over yet, like Donkey Kong 64, Banjo-Tooie, or Perfect Dark. While I think the bulk of Nintendo's year will be remakes and remasters, I do want to predict at least a few new titles, and it wouldn't be a Nintendo Direct without something Mario related. We already got a few Mario remakes and remasters recently with Mario RPG, Mario vs. Donkey Kong, and the Thousand Year Door, so I don't think we'll get another one at this Direct. I also don't expect to see the next big Mario Kart, Mario Party, or Mario platformer. I know there's a rumor going around about a new Mario Party with some codename being leaked or something like that, but I'm expecting that title will be saved for the next console, maybe being a launch title or near launch. However, there is one Mario genre I think is very likely to show up for the Switch's last hurrah, and that's a Mario sports game. There are three main options for what I think this game could be, and the first is Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games. We already have the 2020 version on the Switch, but they did skip the 2022 Winter Olympics, although with the real-world events that is somewhat understandable. But it's somewhat up in the air whether or not the series will return this year for the 2024 Olympics. The second option is a Mario baseball game. The Switch already got its own Mario Tennis, Golf, and Strikers, so baseball is the only major Mario sports series not to get another entry. Interestingly enough, the original two Mario baseball games were developed by Namco, who recently opened a division in their company for the purpose of helping develop Nintendo games, so this could be one of its early projects. The third option I want to suggest is a completely new Mario sports series. Camelot is the company that develops both the tennis and golf games, and we haven't heard anything from them since Mario Golf Super Rush. Perhaps instead of just waiting for the next console so they can make another tennis and golf game, Camelot could try an entirely new sport for Mario to try it on the Switch before moving development to the next console. When looking at the few recent Switch titles that aren't remakes and remasters, they have been much more experimental titles, such as Princess Peach Showtime and Endless Ocean, so my last two predictions are going to be something similar. My first idea is that we will see a brand new spin-off to one of Nintendo's major IPs. My main three guesses are either Kirby, Animal Crossing, or Splatoon. Kirby is no stranger to releasing smaller games, especially on the Switch, with games like Super Kirby Clash, Kirby Fighters 2, and Kirby's Dream Buffet. And since I doubt we're getting a new big Kirby game this year, another smaller title seems pretty likely. But to get a bit more creative, Animal Crossing doesn't have too many spin-offs, and with the exception of the terrible Amiibo Festival, none of them have diverged too far from the main series gameplay-wise. Meanwhile, Splatoon is Nintendo's most recent big IP, and it currently has 3 games under its belt, with a 4th on the next system being inevitable. Yet the series doesn't have any spin-offs yet. Obviously, I don't think we'll see all 3 of these, but at least one of them, or even something along the lines of a brand new spin-off series, would be a cool addition to the Direct. And that leads me to my last prediction, and it's also a bit vague and is far from a guarantee, but I'm going to predict that Nintendo will use this Direct to announce a brand new first-party IP. As I mentioned earlier with F-Zero, the Switch has a massive user base that Nintendo could utilize to test out ideas that would previously be too risky. Nintendo's last try at a big new IP is ARMS. While the game itself had plenty of issues that led to it not taking off the same way Splatoon did, one interesting thing about the game is that it released very early into the Switch's life. Nintendo could look at this and decide that they shouldn't hold a new IP for the launch of a new system, and this time they could try slotting the game at the end of a console's life. Obviously, with a new IP, it's difficult to predict really anything about what the game would be like, and these days Nintendo doesn't create new IP very often, but that is my wild and crazy prediction for this Direct, something that is completely new. And those are my predictions for the next Nintendo Direct. Definitely don't expect anything crazy from this Direct, but it's always fun to speculate, and I think I did a good job keeping my expectations low for what is likely to be a much smaller scale Direct. I'd be happy if just a few of these predictions happen, and even if absolutely nothing interesting happens this Direct, I'd say the Switch would be going out with a pretty strong library. But sometime before the end of next March, we will have the next system officially revealed, and we can go absolutely nuts predicting the launch year titles for whatever that system is. But for now, thanks for watching. And Nintendo, please somehow make a new Mario Luigi game. I know we just got Super Mario RPG and the Thousand Year Door, but please just do it anyways.